Hi, I'm Mr. Ramage, and today's video lesson is all about the 4 amendments passed during America's progressive era. So we're going to do a very quick review of the 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th Amendment to the Constitution. For the purposes of this video lesson, I'm going to be utilizing the state standards for the state of Ohio. If you're outside of Ohio, you probably have similar standards that your state uses. So the 16th Amendment creates a graduated income tax, and this is going to allow the government to raise more money through the taxation of people's income in order to fund more government programs and to hopefully do much more for the less fortunate. Prior to the income tax, the United States mostly got its revenue through tariffs, and tariffs, of course, are taxes on imported goods. Progressives supported the creation of the 16th Amendment because they wanted to tax the wealthier at a higher rate and have them contribute more funds to the government in order to help fund more and more government programs. So if we take a look at the 16th Amendment, it says, Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes on incomes. This amendment was passed by Congress on July 12, 1909, and then ratified by the required 3/4 of the states on February 3, 1919. Now, as you can imagine, not all states were happy about this amendment. As a matter of fact, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Utah, and Virginia are 4 states that rejected the 16th Amendment. And the states of Pennsylvania and Florida actually took no action at all. They didn't even call together a convention to debate and review the proposed amendments. So moving on to the 17th Amendment. The 17th Amendment is going to provide for the direct election of your state's senators. And if we go back to the Constitution, state senators were originally voted on by state legislatures. So you, the individual, would cast your vote for your state legislature, and then your state legislature would then vote for your 2 state senators who would go on to Washington, D.C. and represent your state in the United States Senate. Well, the problem was this caused a lot of bribery and corruption, as people running for Senate just had to kind of buy off members of the state legislature to ensure their election. So there was a lot of fraud and corruption in this form of an indirect election. So after the 17th Amendment, it's going to make it a more direct election, as voters directly elect their 2 state senators. This will give our voters more power and hold those senators to a higher level of accountability. So if we look at the language of the 17th Amendment, it says, the Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state elected by the people. This amendment was passed by Congress on May the 13th, 1912, and then ratified by the required 3/4 of the states on April the 8th of the following year. Now again, there was not 100% approval of this amendment, as the state of Utah rejected this amendment, and surprisingly, a large number of states did not debate or vote on the constitutional amendment at all. Florida, Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, Kentucky, and Mississippi did not hold any conventions for this amendment. Now, our next amendment is the 18th Amendment, which is going to deal with the temperance movement, which was something that had emerged in the early 1800s. The temperance movement worked very, very hard to abolish alcohol. Now, we could go through the entire history of the Temperance Union and the Women's Christian Temperance Union and the Anti-Saloon League, and we can talk about all the things that they did, but that's not really the purpose of this video. We're simply going to look at the amendment's language and talk about what kind of changes it brings to the United States. It is a super cool story, probably for another video on another day. So the 18th Amendment's language says, after 1 year from the ratification of this article, the manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquors is hereby prohibited. And this amendment will pass Congress on December 18, 1917, and will be ratified January 16, 1919 by the required 3/4 of the states. In this instance, the states of Rhode Island and Connecticut did reject the 18th Amendment, but it was approved by all the other states. And our final amendment, the 19th Amendment, of course, grants women full suffrage in the United States. Again, this is a very long, interesting, and amazing story that we could cover, and we can talk all about the suffragettes here in the United States, and I definitely encourage you to do so. But we're going to jump ahead and just look at the language of the amendment. So the 19th Amendment says, The right of citizens to vote shall not be denied on account of sex. This amendment was passed June 4th, 1919, and ratified by the required 3/4 of the states on August 16th, 1920. Now, 8 states that had rejected the 18th Amendment eventually ratified it, the last one being the state of Mississippi, which eventually ratified the 19th Amendment in 1984. So, what are some key takeaways from these amendments from the progressive era in American history? So there were 4 major ones added to the Constitution at the culmination of this progressive era. The 16th created a graduated income tax with the overall purpose of taxing the wealthy and hoping to contribute and provide more funds to the U.S. government in order to support more government programs. 17th Amendment allowed for the direct election of state senators, which cut down on the corruption and bribery that was taking place at the state level, giving the people more power and holding those state senators more accountable. The 18th Amendment created prohibition, which will ultimately fail when it is overturned by the 21st Amendment, but it will abolish alcohol and manufacturing of it and sale and distribution of it in the United States for the better part of 12 years. The 19th Amendment, a long time in coming, will grant women full suffrage in all elections, and the right to vote will not be denied based on gender. And these amendments are really, really significant, and they expand the power of the people in the political process, especially the 17th and the 19th Amendments. So that about wraps it up for these 4 very important amendments that were added to the Constitution. I hope you've enjoyed this video lesson, and more importantly, I hope you learned something.